Good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome to a new edition of Urban Sentinel Live. I'm your host, Reggie Kearney. I want to thank you guys for tuning in to the show tonight. You know what we do on Tuesday night? We have a great guest, and we sit and we talk and we learn. Before we get started with that guest, I want to reach out to you all and tell you, make sure you go out and vote. This is a very important election. Make sure you're telling your friends to go out and vote. We got to do this thing here, okay? Too much is at stake for us not to be out at the voting polls, voting, okay? So please gather Lottie Dottie and everybody and get to the polls and vote, okay? It's very important. So tonight on the Urban Sentinel Live Show, I got a good friend of mine, Troy Smith, Mr. Money Man, the financial wizard of our day and time. He's the founder of and CEO of GI Investment LLC. And one of the reasons I wanted to bring him on tonight and talk to him, also, wanted to talk about financing, and just making your money work. But he's working on a great project here in Maryland, specifically in Charles County, Maryland. It's going to affect the DMV and probably nationally, so we just want to get some updates on what's going on and, find out how we can participate and be a part of this great endeavor. So, Troy, how you doing tonight, my friend?
Doing very well, Reggie. I appreciate you bringing me on today, and I'm blessed. I give God all the glory. I'm alive today, so I'm thankful.
Amen, 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 amen. Yeah, that's one thing we got to be thankful for, that we're able to wake up every day and see a brand new day. That's something to be thankful for.
Yes.
Every day. So what have you been up to, Troy?
Besides running my corporation and educating my children, we also run a small farm. So we have some farm animals on our land, cows, sheep, pigs, chickens, garden. So it's been a busy time for us, and then obviously navigating through some of these challenging economic times has been pretty exciting, but staying productive.
Okay, good. That sounds good. So you say you got a farm, my man, huh?
Yeah, I'm banker by day, farmer by night. Yeah.
Well, look, and getting started, how are your daughters doing? I know each one of them has their own business. So how are they doing with their businesses?
The daughters are doing great. We put the businesses on hold a bit during the busy time of the school year. They're still children.
Oh, okay.
And so, we pause the business while they're learning.
Okay.
We don't want to push them out and get them too tied up in that entrepreneurship at such a young age where it takes away their ability to be children.
Right.
So it's kind of, it's still there. We've developed it, but right now during the heart of school season, it's on pause. So it's more of a seasonal thing.
Oh, okay. I understand that. Education first, because at their young ages, they have a lot of time ahead of them to get things going right.
Oh yeah, plenty of time. Definitely.
So one of the things, we got to realize and we got to talk about in the world of finances, this election that's coming up is really going to determine what direction this country goes in financially and everything. So that's one of my biggest concerns is that whoever gets elected is going to have to take the reins and go into a positive direction, or one other person might go into a negative direction. What can we do as ordinary citizens to prepare ourselves for the future, regardless of what direction it goes in, as far as finances and keeping our retirement together and building on our finances and investing in things of that nature? What can we do, Troy, to keep level heads?
I think that's a great point you bring up, Reggie, in terms of where we are as a country and as a world globally, economically. We're in a very challenging and troubling situation right now. Our currency is a fiat currency, the U.S. dollar. It was pulled off of the gold standard internationally by Richard Nixon back in 1971, and when they pulled the US dollar off the gold standard, effectively they created a worldwide fiat currency, because at the time all world currency was backed by the US dollar, and the US dollar was backed by gold. Okay, and so when we pulled it off internationally, we effectively created the first worldwide fiat currency system, and that's the first time in history. And that's very problematic. Now, fiat currency is not new. It's a current, fiat currency has been in existence for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why most people haven't heard is fiat, F-I-A-T, fiat. Why most people have not heard of it is because none of them have survived. Zero. Now, one fiat currency in world history has ever survived, and that's because of greed, right? Having the currency backed by something creates a boundary line, a limiter. It prohibits excessive creation of it, right? And so it keeps things in line. But when you remove that, then you have what we have now, where our government is continuously creating currency, and they're no longer printing the currency, right? We've moved into an electronic currency phase. Now, this fiat currency for the United States has only been in existence for 53 years. It's relatively young. So what we see, and one of the things that I see when I analyze the market, is that we're likely going to face a currency collapse. And I'm thinking this is going to happen probably in about 5 years or so, maybe a little bit more. Timing could be off, give or take, but I see the cracks, and I think that we're gonna face a significant currency collapse within about 5 years. And what's going to happen when we see a currency collapse is hyperinflation. And if you study history, there's been lots of currency collapses, okay, throughout history. A lot of them, a lot more than what many people would think. And they all follow the same pattern of hyperinflation and the things that happen after the hyperinflation. And so I think when you ask, okay, what can we do? And I honestly don't think that whoever gets into office is really going to be able to make a huge impact on where we're headed, because they can't stop the train. It's already, in my opinion, no one can stop what's coming, right? We have too much debt that's been created, and our U.S. dollar has been debased so much that I don't care who gets in. They can't stop the train, right? I mean, they can accelerate it or not, right? But I don't think they can stop it. So what we can do as a people, for one, is educate ourselves on what I just mentioned. The fact that, and here's a little statistic for you. There's about $2.6 trillion of U.S. currency in circulation today. That's dollars and coin worldwide. Yet there's about $18 trillion on deposit in our financial institutions. Okay, so the physical currency only represents 12% of what's on deposit in our institutions. So if said differently, if more than 12% of the people went to the financial institutions to take their currency out, it would collapse the entire economy, right? And we're very fragile. The system is extremely fragile. So if to educate ourselves on that part of it, the economics, the currency, the weakness of our currency, and then we have to begin to focus on the basic things that we need to survive and how to manufacture and produce those things. Because once the currency is debased to a point where we reach hyperinflation, the only thing that's really going to matter is survival: food, water, air, energy, shelter, right? And those who can produce the basic things needed for survival will win, right? They'll survive. And so what can we do? Well, for one, we can begin to create community systems of distribution and resource centers that prepare us for what's coming, right? And that's part of the reason to start the credit union, right? The credit union gives a community the ability to access currency and convert currency into intrinsic value, right? Okay, that's the thing. Is that people say, well, you take currency to buy money. We no longer have money, right? Money is a medium of exchange with intrinsic value. Currency is a medium of exchange with no intrinsic value. So how do we convert currency into money, right? And then as a community begin to invest in manufacturing the basic things we need to survive so that we're not focused on importing those things in. So I know a long answer to your question, but those are some of the things that we can do to begin to get prepared, invest in things that can put us in a position to produce the things that we need to survive.
Now, what does Bitcoin fit into all of this?
So Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency. It's managed on the blockchain. Blockchain is an amazing technology that decentralizes interactions, right? But and I do think that at some point, because we're in this electronic currency world now, that blockchain technology is going to have a place, right? But think about it from a humanistic and realistic perspective. You can't eat a Bitcoin or drink it, right? I mean, at the end of the day, if a person can't access an internet system to execute trades, how are they going to trade, right? If we understand that the fragility of our internet system, how easily it can be hacked and people can lose data and those types of things. We had a big scare recently where there was this hacking situation. They say it wasn't hacked, but it was a string of code that was out of place. That's the definition of like malware, right? Code during the update that was out of place, and it crashed the system. Airlines couldn't function. Businesses couldn't. That was a sign, right, of how crippling our system can be off of a string of code that was out of place during an update that shuts down everything. So think about it that way. You know, if we become significantly dependent upon things like cryptocurrency and blockchain technology, then we're easily manipulated and we become very vulnerable. And at the end of the day, it's the focus should be on survival, the basic things we need to survive, and producing those things that we need to survive, more importantly.
Okay, good stuff. Okay, now let's talk about the credit union for a while and everything. How's that coming along at this time? Where are you at in the stages of getting it open, getting the doors open?
Yeah, so establishing a federal credit union is no small feat. It's very challenging, and unfortunately, we've seen a lot of minority-owned credit unions over the past 50 years dwindle away. I mean, we're at a place right now where Black-owned financial institutions are scarce. It's worse than it was at the beginning of the Great Depression today, right? And so it's very challenging to mobilize and organize the African American and Hispanic, Black and Brown community to establish financial institutions. You know, we've come to a place where we feel like we've lost the significance of that, and so you know, I'm trying to get to a place where we educate the population on the necessity to own and operate one's own financial institution, and in there lies a hurdle, right? A learning curve. And so we've made great strides to date. There's 3 phases in establishing a federal credit union. The first phase is to submit what the NCUA, the National Credit Union Administration, calls the proof of concept phase. This is a very challenging phase to get. This is really the phase where most credit union ideas or visions stop, right? So you have to compile a significant amount of paperwork. You have to read all of the laws associated with establishing a federal credit union, and then you have to present your case to the NCUA to say, yes, our vision, here's our vision, here's documentation to show that we've studied the law and we understand what it takes to establish a credit union, and here's why we think our vision will be successful. And then they scrutinize it, and they really heavily scrutinize it when it's coming out of the Black community. I mean, they'll never say it, but they do, right? And so that phase where it normally gets blocked. Well, that didn't happen with us. In fact, not only did it not get blocked, we initially came in with the idea of establishing a federal credit union for Charles County, right? We live in Charles County. Charles County is now the wealthiest African-American county in the nation, right? And so, but it does not own its own financial institution, okay, right? So that was the thought. After working through the first phase and the documentation for the first phase, we realized that we had the capacity to launch a 5-county federal credit union charter. So linking together Prince George's County, Charles County, 2 of the wealthiest counties in the nation, pulling us together and utilizing our community resources. And that's what we were able to do. So the NCUA has pre-approved our charter application. Basically what that means is they say, hey, great, we see that your vision is a vision that meets and falls in line with the guidelines and criteria of the NCUA. And we think that you all will be successful. So now you've been given the stamp of pre-approval to move into phase 2. Okay, so in phase 1, what they approve, they pre-approve is the field of membership and the how your charter is going to be established, whether it's community, associational, or organizational, right? So and then they pre-approve your name. Okay, so those are the 3 basic things that they pre-approve. So that's where we are today. We've been pre-approved. Our field of membership. Now we did make history here. The NCUA has never pre-approved a 5-county community here in Southern Maryland, right? So what the NCUA has agreed to say for the first time in history is that Charles, PG, Calvert, St. Mary's, and Anne Arundel counties, 5, are considered one community. Okay. There's some strength there. It's never happened, but creating 5 counties as one community gives us strength that we've never had before. So that's a very significant milestone that we were able to accomplish. They pre-approved the name C3 Federal Credit Union, and then they pre-approved us being a community charter, meaning that any person that resides within any one of the 5 counties could become an owner of the credit union. So now we have entered into phase 2. Phase 2 is also very challenging. I mean, each part is very challenging. Phase 2, I feel like, is one of the most challenging parts of the process because this is where raising the capital comes into play. Now, to be quite honest, it shouldn't be as challenging as it is to raise capital if we can educate the folks on what this is, right? Raising $10, $15, $20 million should happen relatively quickly, but it doesn't. And so that's the phase we're in. Phase 2 pretty much entails surveying the field of membership. Now we need less than 400 surveys out of almost 2 million people. So that number is significantly small, right? And then the second piece is raising sufficient capital to support the business plan. So there's 3 things that happen here. You get a survey, and then you create a business plan based on the survey results. And then you raise adequate capital to support the business plan. Okay, so that's the phase we're in right now, where we're seeking to collect the adequate number of surveys. We want more than 400 surveys. We need 5,000-10,000 surveys. We'd like to have, so we can have a real understanding of the gaps that exist in financing today, and we can potentially bridge those gaps and fill those voids. So that's where we are today. And then after we establish that, phase 3 is actually just getting the charter, the sign, the signatures. So that the folks that are involved undergo background checks, and then a formal charter is established. The NCUA provides the insurance policy. So just like banks have the FDIC to insure the deposits, NCUA insures the deposits as well. So you get the insurance policy, the charter, and then you open for business.
Okay. Now, how are you going about collecting your surveys, information for your surveys?
So we are actually beta testing several different variations of the survey. This part is very critical and can't be rushed. We need to have the right type of questions that are asked so that we can get the right responses. But the plan is to distribute the survey electronically through our website and through various county government websites within the field of membership. And then also other kind of civic organizations like the Chambers of Commerce and other organizations where they publish our survey on their websites. And then physically with having QR codes that can be scanned at different business locations all throughout the field of membership. And those are pretty much the predominant ways. Having physical QR codes in establishments, whether they're grocery stores or barbershop salons, different types of businesses, and then distributing the survey electronically. And right now, what we're doing is collecting data from folks that are interested in completing the survey. And if anyone's interested in completing the survey, they can go to c3fcu.com. So that's C3FCU for Federal Credit Union.com/contact. Okay. And they just give us some basic information stating that, they would like to get the steps to figure out how to support the movement. And then we reach out to them with the instructions.
Okay, good. Now, for the big question, how do we get this money?
Listen, I have a pretty, I thought a pretty easy, and I still think a pretty easy idea, right? But it takes a good amount of people. Mm-hmm. So if we can, the goal is to raise about 10 million. It's a small number, but it's a start. So we feel like $10 million will get the ball rolling and get us to a place where we're fiscally responsible, we're solvent, and we can open the doors and service the field of membership. 100,000 people contributing $100 gets us there.
Okay. Yes.
Now, our field of membership potential is about 2 million people.
Mm-hmm.
Of the 2 million people, we need 100,000 people to say, I like it. I'm in. Here's $100.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing to the piece where there needs to be some education is on the difference between a bank and a credit union, right? So a bank is privately owned or publicly owned on the stock exchange, okay? Versus a credit union is and so a person, so we could create an account with Chase, Bank of America, whoever, right? Opening a bank account. Opening a bank account with a bank does not make us an owner. We have no voting rights. We can't determine how the banks are managed, who's managing them. We have no control. We just put our money in, take our money out, and maybe can get a loan here and there. That's how a bank works. The credit union system is completely different. Every person who makes a deposit becomes an owner. Mm-hmm. So they can dictate what happens. They control policies, procedures, underwriting guidelines, personnel, management, everything. So this kind of decentralizes the type of dictatorship style mentality that exists in the banking world today. You have these banks where one person makes, you have a board that makes all the decisions for millions of people, right? And the millions of people have no say. They just go, herd mentality, just take whatever is given. That is completely decentralized in a credit union system. And it's $1 equals one share. $1 million equals one share. Right? So a person can't come in and deposit $1 million into a credit union and then have greater pull than Aunt Susie who put $1 in. Mm-hmm. Her voice is just as powerful as the person who put $1 million in. Mm-hmm. That creates a sense of equity and balance in how the credit union system is managed and run, right? And so, a lot of people oftentimes they say, as I started trying to create this movement, they said, well, what's in it for Troy, right? But you got to be, though. People don't understand that there's actually, there is something in it, just like what's in it for everyone else. There's establishing a credit union that I have a part ownership in. But at this point, everything I'm doing is volunteer. I'm volunteering my time and all my money to bring this together. And my share, it will be no greater than my daughter's share that puts $1 in, right? So there's no like pot of gold at the end of the tunnel for me in doing this. This is why many credit unions aren't in existence today, especially Black-owned, because there's no major profit in the person organizing it. Mm-hmm. It's quite the opposite. So anyway, sorry, I might have got off track. I don't know if I answered your question.
Yes, you did. You answered. So 100,000 people, it doesn't seem like it's a lot in a population of 2 million people, and that should be pretty easy and everything. So when do you anticipate getting into phase 2 a little deeper?
2025, I really want to make the year that we dig into phase 2 and complete it. Mm-hmm. So I'd like to have phase 2 completed by the end of 2025. So adequate surveys. We only need 400. I'd like to get many more than that. And then having the $10 million raised and having a full scope on how we're going to service the entire field of membership. And really what we need to do is we must have kind of one first central location, physical location with a plan for how we anticipate establishing branches, at least one branch in each county, and then expand from there. I mean, where we'll have multiple branches in every county. So short answer is the goal would be to have phase 2 completed in 2020 by the end of 2025, which should give us charter in hand by end of Q2 26.
Okay, good. Now, so with the $10 million, you'll be able to use that money to for operating expenses, correct?
That's right. Yeah. So the $10 million, what happens is as we raise the $10 million, the $10 million goes into like an escrow style account. It can't be touched really until, and there's some provisions that will allow us to touch a portion of the money to cover tangible expenses to assist with the things that we're doing, right? But those are heavily scrutinized, documented, and kept a close eye on. But the 98% of the funds that are raised will be held in an account and then used as assets and reserves for the credit union once it receives its charter. Okay, and then our intention, what we intend to do to make folks feel comfortable about the raising of the capital is to make it contingent. The 96, 8, whatever percent it's going to be, contingent upon receiving the charter, using a third-party fund collection service that will distribute all the funds back to whoever donated those funds in the event that we're unsuccessful with establishing the charter. right? So we want to pay very close attention to how this part is done, because our people over the past 300 to 400 years have been taken advantage of a lot by financial. So we've lost trust, and rightfully so. And so we have to do the right things to instill the trust into the population, the community, to say, look, we're going to safeguard the capital that's being raised, and we're going to use third-party services to guarantee it.
Okay, good. Now, so we've gone through phase 1. We talked about phase 2. And we talked about phase 3. The opportunities there to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
Now, have you created a board of directors for the credit union yet? Or are you still working on that?
Yeah, so that doesn't happen until phase 3.
Oh, okay.
So initially, based on NCUA laws, it takes 7 human beings to come together and establish a federal credit union for either an association, an institution, or a community. And these are 7 individuals that come together, they volunteer their time and money to do all the paperwork and everything necessary to establish a credit union for the community. Those are called subscribers. It's just what the NCUA calls them, also referred to as organizers, right? We have the 7. We've been working, so the 7 now has been working for almost 2 years together to get to where we are today. And that's now, generally what will happen is a portion of the organizers will also become members of the board. That's generally kind of the natural progression. But not all organizers end up wanting to be on the board. They just want to be part of the organization piece of it, and then they're done. And so once the next phase after they say, okay, great, you're approved, phase 2 is approved, is establishing the board of directors. And that then the board of directors are written into the bylaws, and the charter is signed based on that, the board of directors and such. So we're a bit early for establishing the board of directors, but we do have the group of organizers that are legally required to carry this through.
Okay. Now, are you out in the community now talking to different organizations in the 5-county area about what your plans are?
Not as much as we need to be. Not as much as we need to be. Yes, but nowhere near like we need to be. And this is part of the challenge, right? When you have 7 people that are trying to stand up a institution for 2 million people, it's burdensome. And this is where we're going to really need some community support in building awareness to what we're doing, so we can get other volunteers that just like us who are volunteering to say, look, we're here, we're willing to volunteer to assist. So yes, but nowhere near like we need to be. But the plan is to really put together a strategic initiative for how we can garner more volunteer support moving into 2025 so that we can duplicate our efforts.
Because that's going to be very important, getting the word out to the community. I think once you can get the word out to the community, raising the money is not going to be a problem.
I agree.
People see the vision and understand the vision, they'll move along with the vision. So that's not going to be hard. That's not going to be hard at all to get that done.
I agree.
So yeah, man, with all the churches out here, the other organizations, civic organizations out here, man, I think you'll have a pretty easy go of it. And I think too, people will be very excited to hear about this, and they will participate in it, with no problem. So what you're doing is a good thing for the community, And now, what's the interest rates that are being paid through credit unions now? Are they in line with the banks, traditional banks, or they're a little higher or lower?
Yeah, a little higher. Generally, credit unions pay interest rates that are a bit higher. Fluctuates, based on the market and the product that's being offered. Right. Typically, share accounts are the lowest. Right. I don't know if you ever looked at what kind of interest you're making on a checking account. Let's say at Bank of America, it's like 0.002%. Right? It's nothing. is what it turns out to be. It's greater with credit unions. Share accounts, which is similar to a checking account, is still a smaller a percentage, and again, it could range. There's a fluctuation there. But we plan on having other investment style accounts for our members, where we can generate, the higher returns that are beating inflation. So that's really the first hurdle, is to ensure that your dollar is not losing value, so that it's at least keeping pace with inflation and beating it. And generally, having accounts within the credit union that are tied to, like U.S. Treasury bonds, risk-free investments. So like the 91-day U.S. Treasury bond. That's the standard bond that is used as a risk-free rate of return when you're analyzing an investment, right? And that's generating 4.5%, 5%, fluctuates. If inflation's at 2%, then you're earning 2 to 3% over inflation. That means that your dollar today is worth more at the end of the year than it would have been had it not been invested, because a dollar today is worth less in a year if it's just sitting in a checking account, right? Or mattress money. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of folks in our communities that don't have bank accounts. They're doing everything on Cash App, right? And they're paying their bills at department stores and such, and they're losing value in their dollar because it's not invested. So we plan on having investment vehicles for the community so that they can, number one, beat inflation, and then two, compound it down the line.
How do we pull our community away from Cash App, from the liquor stores, department stores, and things of that nature, and get our people to understand the importance of financial literacy?
I think opportunity for one, establishing a financial institution like a credit union is important. I think that's really kind of where it starts. Part of credit union is a not-for-profit organization. That's another difference from a bank as a for-profit. And part of the charter is education, right? So education is written into the charter. And so part of what a credit union is required to do is educate the people. And they also can receive federal and state funding dollars to do so. So I think that's the first thing, is establishing a federal credit union, and then through that federal credit union, creating educational initiatives. When I came up, so I was raised in Springfield, Massachusetts. My grandmother was the CEO of a community development credit union. She created the first Black-owned youth credit union program in the nation. And this was a youth credit union owned and operated by youth. We had a board of directors that you could sit on from the time you were 7 until you turned 18. And the youth would run it. We had a teller, right? We had our own counter where youth would come and make deposits. Our youth would fill out loan applications, and we traveled all around the country opening up other youth credit union programs around the nation. The idea around it was educating our youth on how to own and operate a financial institution. And in that education, they learn the not just financial literacy, but financial proficiency. Right? How do you, it's one thing to read something. It's a completely separate thing to then take what you've read and apply it. Right? How do you, practical application of what you're learning? And I think that's, there's some financial literacy out there, but again, that's just the beginning phase. How do we then take that literacy and turn it into proficiency through practical application? I think having an institution like a federal credit union will foster creating the awareness amongst the community, creating success stories within the community that creates a sort of viral impact that then begins to unlock the mind to say, well, wait, oh, wow, what's happening? Let me give you an example. Let's say we have 500,000 people that are members of a credit union. Let's say we have 1 million people. Let's say we 500,000 people of the 1 million members of the credit union say, look, we all agree on whatever the initiative is. Okay. And let's say of the 500,000 people, they each person says, I'm willing to put in $100 a month towards the initiative. That's $50 million monthly. Okay. All right. You grasp that, right? $50 million monthly. 500,000 people that, and let's say we have 1 million members, but we get 500,000 of the members that say, hey, and then the credit union says, hey, we have an initiative, whatever the initiative is. And we get 500,000 people to say, look, we're willing to contribute to the initiative, $100 a month, $50 million monthly. And then we begin to do what, Reggie? We begin to invest in the things that we need to survive and that are profit produce. Imagine how many salons we could start. How many, think about how much we spend in our communities for hair care products, right? But we don't own the companies that distribute the hair care products, right? Imagine how many gas stations we could own, groceries. We could then take those funds, invest them into profit-producing businesses that produce dividends, i.e. profit for the owners of the credit union, right? So those are the types of things that we need to do. And then that creates a viral effect. 500,000 people are raising $50 million a month, right? I mean, you're talking over $500 million in a calendar year. And imagine doing that across the country. See, our strategy is not to just erect a federal credit union here. It's to then do it, and then we have the blueprint, right? And then once we can take that blueprint to every other community that has an interest in doing this. And instead of them starting off where we started off, I mean, we're almost 2 years into this thing. We're going to be probably 4 years in before we get the charter. So then we can say, great, the next person, that next community, they're 4 years ahead. We give them the blueprint. They say, boom, you're here. You're accelerated. And we do the same thing and create hundreds of federal credit unions all across the country that are interconnected with the same vision and the same mechanisms. That's how we begin to pull our people out of the mindset of cash apps and liquor store pawn shop dealings and such.
Do you agree with me when I say we need to do more in our schools as far as teaching financial literacy?
Absolutely. No question about it. Look, it's there's no hiding the fact that in school today, we're producing labor workers. We're producing people who are only educated enough to be low-level labor workers. Well, why, you wonder? Because our country is being run by large corporations. Large corporations don't want to produce thinkers and entrepreneurs. They want to produce the cashier. They want to produce the factory worker at Amazon, and so because of that, there's not an emphasis on entrepreneurship, on understanding financial planning, insurance, investments, all the things that are extremely essential and critical to our survival and as we age. I mean, think about the fact that most folks don't even understand how the difference between term versus permanent life insurance and how those are assets and can be used to leverage for acquisitions and such, and then used as legacy wealth creation when a family member passes, right? And these are just little tools that are completely eliminated from our school system. Yet we want to teach our children about transgender, right? But we don't want to teach them about the things that they need to survive. It's like, where is our mindset? Where we've gone so far away, we're producing people that cannot survive on their own. So yes, I agree with you 100%, and I believe that it's an epidemic that needs to be. I honestly think that more families should homeschool. Right? I think that because our public school system has become so watered down that and so much money is being pumped into these school systems that we need to create more of a homeschool system environment because parents care about what their children are learning and they're going to teach them how to survive.
Well, you're finding more African Americans homeschooling now than you did in the past. And I think too, homeschooling has become more organized than what it was when it first started out years and years and years ago, where basically the parent was said, "Look, I'm gonna teach my kids," and they were going looking for books and materials and stuff to use. So I think they've crossed that line now, where it's really organized and they work among themselves to make sure that the kids get a quality education. So I mean, I kind of agree with you. The public schools are kind of falling short, man. Because when you take that many kids in a school, whether it be elementary, middle school, or high school, and you take the problem you have in trying to keep teachers hired and keep people motivated to go into teaching, you do have some issues. As far as quality of education.
No question about it. And then morality, right?
Yeah.
You can't talk about Jesus in the church and
Mm-hmm.
in the school system anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they pulled the Lord out of it, and now
Mm-hmm.
anything goes. So the morality, the type of things that they're pumping into tender minds
Mm-hmm.
in school. It's the power of persuasion. You get a group of 20 children and you give them all yellow pencils. Everyone uses a yellow pencil.
Right.
But you introduce a pink, a purple, and a green pencil, some are going to choose other pencils.
Yeah.
That's just the nature of humans. They're going to choose what's there. So if you introduce these things to things that are adult content to children, and they begin to choose these things without a full understanding of what they're agreeing to, because you can't have certain conversations with a child based on what they're choosing and what they're being pumped in their mind. And so it's just, I believe one of the worst things we've done is we pulled the Lord out of the schools, and we've removed biblical principles from our day-to-day life, right? There's a moral standard there. And I think that's part of the downfall of our country and our school system.
Right. Well, I think one of the things that kind of pushed that scenario and probably pushed the downfall was respecting, being a respecter of other people and their cultures. Okay. And I think the only way they thought they could assimilate other cultures into the United States was to accept their culture and just go with the flow. Okay. And go with the flow. And I think in doing that, and just going with the flow, you lost track of what this country was built on. Okay.
Absolutely.
You just lost track of it. And
well, look, you don't get in trouble for saying Buddha
right.
in school, right? You can talk about Buddha. You can talk about Muhammad. You can talk about the sun god. You can talk about Pluto and the Greek gods. All of that. But when you mention the name Jesus, forget about it. Now there's a problem now.
Yeah, so I think the country has just tried to be excuse me, the country has tried to be respectable of other cultures. But if you go outside this country, whatever that country values are and their belief system is, your belief system gonna be second or third on the list, because they're not gonna bend their rules to include you.
Absolutely.
And that's one of the things. If you go into the Muslim countries, countries that practice Hindu, Buddha, and all that kind of stuff. That if that religion is the number one religion, that's where that's the number one religion. You can't go in there with I can't talk about Jesus. That's not what we're talking about here. Okay, and they just like that. Here in the United States, we've been more accommodating. We've tried to accommodate everyone, and it's probably has been a detriment to our country and society and stuff. But we've got to. I don't know. We got to try to figure this thing out. We definitely got to try to do that. Now, have you thought about maybe doing a Saturday school for kids for financial literacy?
I have. There's several things I'd like to do with educating our youth, and I want to do it with the broadest stroke possible.
Mm-hmm.
And that's again where I come back to the federal credit union system, because the federal credit union system has all of the capital necessary and the infrastructure necessary to be in all of this. This would help the public school system. Right? I'm not opposed to the public school system. I'm just pro making sure that we educate our children properly, right? And so yes, I've thought about several different ways to provide a more adequate education to our children, and it defaults me back to how we can have the greatest impact. And having the greatest impact is reaching the most people in the least amount of time in the most efficient way, right? And so that, again, defaults me back to having a federal credit union system within the 5 counties where we have 10, 20 branches, and we have members that are in every public school system in every county that has programs where we educate and inform and help students come together and participate. So yes, I have, but I think that the first step is to be successful with getting the federal credit union established so that we can do it and do it the right way.
Right, because there's got to be a vehicle that prepares young people to be entrepreneurs, and I think the future is going towards that, where you're going to find that a lot of the jobs are going to be created by our young people today, or if they're not creating jobs, they're going to have probably 1-man, 2-man operations where they are doing something great in the community, and I think that really needs to be pushed, the opportunity to become an entrepreneur instead of becoming a laborer. And so
I agree.
I think that's something that we're going to have to continue to push, but can't that be pushed while you're trying to create the credit union? Just financial literacy classes and entrepreneurship classes.
Yes. Yeah, it can be. I've put together a comprehensive plan and presented it to Charles County and our schools. So I did a deep analysis of the Charles County school curriculum in relation to the state mandates as it relates to financial literacy, because the state has put out specific language as to the type of financial literacy training that they expect to be taking place in our school system. I've identified that we're grossly insufficiently providing that level of education, and presented a plan to get there. And so, yes, it can be done while we're waiting to establish the credit union. We'll just need more hands to assist, right? You get to a place where there's the law of diminishing returns, where there's only a certain amount of energy that a person can contribute before they can't, right? And so, then it becomes, okay, what's the most important place to focus my attention and energy? If I'm just speaking about myself, and I have to choose, right? To say, okay, do I spend time doing this or that? And so right now I'm investing the majority of my time that's not spent in running our corporation and raising our children and farm into establishing the federal credit union so that I can have greater impact down the line. And while I see an immediate need today, I see a greater need for tomorrow. and establish. I can do little today, but if I take my efforts today to establish something on a solid foundation, we would be able to produce much greater results in the future and perpetually.
Okay, good. And before we close, what other services does GI and G1 Investment offer?
Yeah, so we are a wholesale mortgage bank. So we provide mortgage capital to investors predominantly at this point here. We help investors create, grow, and stabilize their rental portfolio. So we provide, financing in the value add space. So for clients that are looking to purchase a distressed property and rehabilitate it, or build properties from the ground up, and then either sell them or hold them. And then if they hold them, then that's creating a rental portfolio, and we provide permanent capital for the holding of those rental properties. And then the third leg is our small balance commercial arm, where we provide permanent mortgage financing for various asset classes, including restaurant, bar, office, retail, warehouse, strip mall, automotive, daycare, self-storage, capital. So commercial businesses that need capital, or investors that are looking to invest in commercial asset classes, we provide permanent mortgage financing for that. Where we're headed is a couple different places. So we're working on licensing for creating a investment advisory firm, where we then begin to work with the community on establishing, private equity investment channels, so that our communities can invest in and see far greater returns. So that's on the horizon. Our next iteration, we're actually in the process of a merger right now, where we're looking at expanding our offerings into the consumer purpose space. So not just investors, but then providing capital for owner-occupied properties as well, and servicing the mortgage broker. So a lot coming down the pike with G1 Investment, but our primary focus today is on providing a short and long-term capital for real estate investors and commercial businesses.
Okay, good. And do you all work all 50 states, or are you just bound to a certain geographical area?
So we consider ourselves a national company. We're not in all 50 states, but so on our value add platform, we're in about 43 states, and in our rental property and our small balance commercial, we're in 40.
Okay.
So we're virtually nationwide.
Yeah. Most definitely. Okay, sounds good. Well, Troy, I've enjoyed talking to you as always.
Yes.
You gave us some good information tonight for our viewers. We've been talking to Troy Smith tonight. He's the founder and CEO of G1 Investment LLC, and we've been talking about the upcoming opportunity for a credit union that would cover five counties in the DMV. And we also got a little information on what else the company does as far as investing in real estate and helping out in real estate. So, hey, he's a person to talk to if you need more information. Also, we talked about getting our youth involved in entrepreneurship and also helping them with their finances. So, my main thing is prepare your youth to go out into this world and be ready, okay? And we all want our youth. We wanted to do better than our parents, and so we need to have the mindset we want our kids to do better than we have done. Okay, but we got to prepare them for that, for the world, for them to go out in the world. So Troy, how can people get in contact with you if they need more information or anything?
Yeah, you can visit my website, g1investment.com. You can call me 443-944-6103, or you can email me at tsmith@g1investment.com.
Okay. So you all have got the information. As I said earlier in opening up the show, need everyone to go out and vote, regardless of who you're going to vote for. You need to go out and exercise your right to vote, okay? A lot of people, especially in the Black community, fought for your opportunity to vote. So please go out and exercise that right to vote, okay? that's just your right. Do it. Okay. Because you can't complain after it's all done and said if you didn't go out and vote. Okay.
That's right.
So please go out and vote. Some states still have same day registration. When you vote, you can register. Some states don't. For the most part, most states have closed off registration. But if you are registered to vote, please take the opportunity to vote. Okay. So next week we'll be back again next week, and I don't know. We'll figure out something to talk about next week. But I want to thank everyone for stopping by and tuning in to the Urban Sentinel Live Show. I'm Reggie Kearney, editor and publisher of the Urban Sentinel magazine. And my guest tonight was Troy Smith again, founder and CEO of G1 Investment LLC. Until next week, people, be safe, okay? Stay out of trouble out there. Take care. Good night, everyone.